Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Robert Nickell. Robert is the founder and CEO of Rocket Station, the leading provider of outsourced staffing and process management for the Business Process Outsourcing BPO industry. Operating in Dallas, Fort Worth since 2013, Rocket Station helps small to mid-sized businesses with efficiency and profitability. Simplified staffing allows operators to focus on core competencies and outsource the rest. Robert started his career as an entrepreneur in the real estate industry, which has positioned him to support many real estate entrepreneurs and established firms who are struggling with staffing and human resources. Robert and his team's strength in evaluating best practices and efficient ways to staff capacity have continued to propel Rocket Station. When not helping clients build better businesses, you'll find Robert traveling the world or hanging out with his nephews in Dallas. So sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's dive right into this conversation with Robert. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your show, and I'm thankful you're having me on today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. You're welcome. So, Robert, I gather the latter part of your bio, traveling the world, has been on pause for the last 12 to 13 months in light of our global pandemic. But could you share with us?
Yes, unfortunately.
I know. Could you just share with us a little bit about your journey in your own words, how it is that you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I quit my first job out of college pretty quick. I think I only worked a traditional W-2 job for a couple of years, and I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I really wanted to control my own time. That was really, I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do with who I wanted to do it. I like to travel, as you mentioned, so I wanted to be able to take vacations. And so I jumped right into entrepreneurship. And as the bio mentions, I started with real estate. And I thought that real estate was going to be the answer to my solutions of not being able to control my own time.
Mm-hmm.
And really what happened was I just kind of became a slave to my business. I was a one-man show. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. And the only way I could do more transactions or make more money in real estate was just to work more hours. And I'd kind of hit a wall. I'd kind of hit a breaking point because it wasn't, instead of my business serving the lifestyle that I was hoping to create, I was totally serving my business every single day. But I was lucky to have some really awesome mentors and some people who had built some amazing businesses. And they just kind of showed me that there's opportunities to create a better business, and there's a solution to do that. You just can't do it all yourself. And so I started trying to hire people and train people that were friends and family to work in my real estate business. And that just didn't work very well. And I really struggled with that. And then I tried to do traditional job postings and use the websites like Ladders and Indeed and all the ways that, you can Wise Hire and all the different options that exist. And again, I failed at that. People came in. And I would, I'd hire people that I dreaded driving into the office every single day because I felt like I had to tell people what to do all day. And I mentioned having great mentors, and one of them really showed me that I was doing the process backwards. I was hiring people, throwing them at a problem, and then hoping that they were just gonna solve it. When really I needed to start with the end in mind, have systems, have processes, have structure around all the tasks that are happening every day. And then somebody knows exactly what success looks like, and they can come in and really help. So I know I've been talking too much here about how, but that's really kind of
how you
the
got to
impetus for the idea. Yeah, exactly. I was just working too many hours. I needed some help. I tried the traditional hiring model. I failed with that over and over again. And so I kind of started from scratch, started with building systems and processes, which I didn't really have enough of, then hired people and started doing that really well. And today we're just kind of taking all the failings that I had early on and that most businesses struggle with, and we just solve all those problems. We like to think we're the easy button to productivity and efficiency.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about if a client was to hire you to, let's say you got a customer who is exactly where you were, many years ago. what are some of the benefits that they would get? What are some of the things that they would need to do, like maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that maybe they're not doing that would help them to be more productive?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just be aware of where you spend your time all day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many people we talk to that they don't really understand where they're spending their time because we all get busy. We have a lot of things going on. So when the phone rings, we answer it, or where emails come through, we respond. And so usually entrepreneurs just have so much going on, and they're putting out fires all day, but they're not super aware of all the things they're actually doing. So what we like to do is have people list out and write down kind of what you're doing all day. And that usually is a little bit hard for people right out the gate because we rarely take the time to slow down and think about what we're really doing.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, now it's a whole lot easier to identify tasks that really aren't worth your time, or it's not really highest and best use of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start with awareness, then you can identify some of those tasks that are not great use of your time, and now researching different opportunities or finding solutions to those problems becomes a whole lot easier. So I think awareness is really the first step for anybody.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And business process outsourcing can be applied to any industry, correct?
Yes, and that's what's really amazing about what's happened the last few years with the development of technology. Most everything's done online. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking this conversation online. There's voice over IP phone systems, and everything's done through email and cloud storage. So there's been a massive shift the last several years to outsource a huge percentage of operations just because it's so easy and simple to do that, and it solves so many of the problems that entrepreneurs face every day. So
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic kind of accelerated that process in a lot of ways because people were forced to work from home and think about things a little bit differently. But this has been going on for a while, and part of the reason why I like your show is because you oftentimes really talk about the customer, like what it takes to really build amazing customer experience and the solutions behind that. And there's just so many amazing tools and resources today that can really drive the customer service experience, which ultimately does nothing but improve the business and the bottom line.
Right. I'm glad you touched on that because that was actually my next question. So you outsource to all of these different persons to improve productivity processes to make things smoother for your customer. But because it's not people, typically in an organization, traditional organization, we're accustomed to having like a mission and a vision and a set of core values and cultural beliefs. And, people come into a building every day, or they're seeing their manager on a constant basis. They have like powwows or monthly or weekly meetings. How do you bring all of that together when you are outsourcing with so many different things to take into consideration? Culture, mindset. There were maybe 2 or 3 recommendations that you have done in your own business or that you've seen other persons do that have really been able to still sustain a strong customer experience where your customers are advocates of your business.
Yeah, and it's a great question because most people think about outsourcing as just like a tool that's over there. It's not tangible. And for us, there's lots of ways you can outsource, but for us, what we believe makes the process successful is we try to replicate all the things that you just mentioned: culture, intimacy, meetings, alignment, transparency, communication, all
Mm-hmm.
of those things that seem to just happen in an office. You can replicate the exact same things with virtual teams. So the way we work, it's dedicated staffing. So it's the same people showing up to work, dedicated to your company. So they're not working on multiple accounts or multiple companies. We are a dedicated staffing model. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes it a little bit easier for us to create and replicate some of the things you're talking about. So we help facilitate from our company. The first thing that we do is we document all your systems and processes. So you have complete alignment and transparency what's happening in the organization,
Mm-hmm.
but that also creates the task maps and the job descriptions. So the team members that are placed have very specific roles and swim lanes. And if they're doing customer service and customer support, they've got their scripts built, they're dedicated to your company, and they're going to work. It's going to function exactly like a W-2 would. And with technology and tools today, it makes it super easy to replicate the rhythm that you get within an office. So all of our teams check in the morning. As soon as they get there, you exchange pleasantries. You have all the same normal conversations. whether that's Zoom. We use Zoom as a company. A lot of our clients use Slack or Skype or Salesforce or custom PHP programs, whatever it is. We integrate our teams into your organization, and they should be a part of your weekly meetings. They should be a part of your monthly reviews. They should have KPIs the exact same way that all employees should have KPIs. And we believe that you should manage to those outcomes and those numbers and not have to micromanage tasks. And if you go about that the right way by building systems of processes, documenting everything that happens on the front end, now you can set expectations for what task management looks like. And culture for me is just when you've got a team that understands exactly what's expected of them and everybody's performing to expected outcomes and you have success. Now, culture is going to be amazing in the organization. So there's lots of ways that you can replicate the office experience in a virtual environment. And that's part of what our teams do, is help you set up every step of the process. And we never leave you. We stay with you for the life of the account. And the purpose of that is to do exactly what you're talking about, to replicate amazing culture, to create a very, you're talking about, having raving fans and improving net promoter scores.
Right.
That comes from a very efficient, aligned organization. And today it's easier than ever to be able to create that process. And it's totally not only doable, but that's what the expectation should be, whether your teams are working in office or they're working virtually, and you're outsourcing customer service or any of the other tasks within the business. You can totally recreate and replicate culture the exact same way you can in an office.
Nice. Okay, so it's very possible, as you said, to replicate it in a virtual space. Now, let's talk about on a granular level now, employees, because this is a question that I get all the time from my clients. So Yannick, you'll for example, you want us to go virtual and, we're expected to work remotely. Yes, it can improve productivity and definitely efficiency, maybe even save us some money. But what if the persons that we're sending to work at home are not disciplined enough? They need a structure. They need to come in to an office space. Like, I think some people genuinely feel like if they don't jump in their car or take public transportation and get physically to a location, that the work can't get done. Is that a recruitment issue, or is that a leadership mindset issue? I mean, how do they get over that hump to feel like the person is going to be just as productive if they were working from home?
Yeah, if I'm hearing you correct, you're asking if that's a leadership issue or if that's a recruitment issue.
Yeah.
And the answer, I think, is yes. I think it's both of those things. If you have the right team members in place, and we all work a little bit differently. We leverage a tool in our organization called Culture Index. And the idea of that tool is a couple things. It's not just to identify 10 trends within personalities so that we can really understand each other, but it's also so that we can communicate and coordinate and communicate efficiently within the organization. And that's on more the recruiting side, having the right people in place. But, all of us operate a little bit differently. And you're talking about people needing structure. If you're going to be forced to work from home, then you need to just try to replicate some structure. For example, like our team's the same way. We had to reset expectations. Working hours are exactly the same. And same with dress code, because you've got to get on team meetings and calls periodically throughout the day and week and interact with customers and clients. Like, dress code's the same expectations about having a dedicated working station where there's no food and drink and you don't eat at the desk and during calls and those type of things. So that's definitely both of those things. But Unique, I think what's really happening is we're going to have this hybrid working model where I've got an office in Dallas where W-2s come in and they work out of the office and they have an option whether or not they can come in. And then I have a group of people who basically never come in, and I have a group that comes in consistently because they need what you're talking about. But with our virtual teams, because most of our teams are based in the Philippines, they all have dedicated workstations, and they figure out it's just part of the process that we create. But for our US-based staff, we're really trying to put the right leadership in place with the right team members underneath them, but then give them the option based on what they need to be successful, whether or not they need to come into the office or not. And I think you're going to see both smaller organizations have to make that adjustment the same way Facebook and Chase Bank and all these companies are releasing statements saying that that's exactly what they're going to do, is just adopt a hybrid model for now. Because some people, if you're going to hire somebody and they need the structure that you're talking about, great. Or oftentimes, some of our team members, they have kids and they don't have the ability with kids at home right now to have workstations that aren't going to be interrupted and background noise and pets and those types of things. So I think what's really going to happen is we're going to continue with this hybrid model where you'll have some part of your workforce in an office and a large part of it you'll never see or never have to come in.
Great. Good. Very good answer. I think I totally agree with you. You definitely need a blended approach because we're just not there yet where everybody can just fit into that cycle that we're trying to create. So I totally agree with you. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Robert. So could you now share with us, Robert, maybe what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business? Now, I know you mentioned some already that you use for the business, but maybe if you could just pick one that, if that app or that website or that tool went down tomorrow, you would just be a fish out of water.
Yeah, for us, we're totally dependent upon Zoom right now. So we use Zoom as our voice over IP phone system. So all of our team members they have a phone system that functions just like landline phones, but it's done over Zoom. That also has our chat feature where all of our teams and groups are in Zoom chatting all day. And that's one of the reasons why we have such great communication is we really put a lot of structure and expectations on our team about the way they communicate and how often they do. We over communicate as an organization. So that's mostly done in Zoom. And then it's also our video conferencing tool. So we do our weekly team meetings that are happening right now. And in the conference room next to me, each department on Mondays goes through all of the weekly updates, and the same thing on monthly calls. That's done on the video calls with Zoom as well. So we used to use 3 different tools. We had RingCentral as a phone system, we had Slack as our chat tool, and then we had Skype as our video tool. And Zoom has replaced all 3 of those tools and gone into one box, and we would be pretty lost without it right now.
Wow, that's brilliant. And they clearly saw the need in the market. But they've really evolved, I must say, because I used to use them before the pandemic. And I have a few clients here in Jamaica that use them for online training. And when I look at the interface to what it was, let's say 2-3 years ago, it's like day and night. They really have put a lot of, and as you said, the pandemic forced a lot of persons to accelerate. I was reading an article yesterday that said Target's 2030 goals became their 2020 goals just because of what was happening globally. So a lot of organizations definitely had to just make that shift very quickly.
And that's also why competition is good, right? Because it forces people into growth. And Zoom hadn't had much competition or much requirement for the last long time. And so as a stagnant program, I totally agree. It wasn't very good. But now Microsoft Teams is creating a tool that's very similar. Salesforce is trying to compete because they're blending all tools together. And so as a result, Zoom had to really step up their game based on the demand and the needs of all of us as their clients. And so it's just, they really have progressed a ton. And to your point, I don't think the pandemic really changed anything that was going to happen. I think it just accelerated what was inevitable really quickly. So our goals changed as well, because this concept of work from home and outsourcing now makes a lot more sense to people just because they had to live it and experience it the last year. Yeah. And so, I'm so ready for the pandemic to end, but it's been fun to see how fast people have been able to change and adapt.
Agreed. Okay, Robert, could you share with us maybe 1 or 2 books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, or maybe something you read recently, but it still has, great impact on you.
Okay, how about both? So what really set me up for success was a book called E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And he talks about the ability to work on your business instead of in your business every day.
Yep.
And he describes that as a technician, the person who is actually responsible for all the day-to-day tasks and all the things that have to be done. And if you're always a technician, then you can never actually have the business that you really want. So that was super powerful for me, was to understand the impact that systems and processes and really clear structure could have on the business. And so E-Myth by Michael Gerber was huge. It was one of the first books I read, business books, that had just a massive impact. And most recently, and it's been on my shelf for a while, and I read it every single year, it's Principles by Ray Dalio. And it's just one of the most Ray's skill sets are kind of the opposite of what mine are. I'm great at sales and client facing or customer engaging activities. I like to be traveling and on the road and engaging with people. And so my natural skill sets have never been around the structure and the clarity of operations and how to build a really successful business that's sustainable. And Principles by Ray Dalio just has so many amazing different topics in there that for me, it's an annual read for me at the beginning of the year, every single year, and I learn something new every single time.
Nice. Very good. So we'll have the links to both those books by Ray Dalio and Michael Gerber in the notes of this episode. So all of our listeners that want to tap into that wealth of knowledge can definitely go ahead and tap into it. Now, Robert, could you share with us what's one thing that's going on in your life right now? It could be something that you're really excited about, but it must be something that you're either working on to develop yourself or your people.
So leadership and interpersonal development is a huge thing, not just for my life, but for our teams as well. And so what I'm most excited about is for what we're working on, it's both personal and our team members, is our community projects. And it's mostly what we have going on in the Philippines. We call it Rocket Station Cares. And there's just so many different ways that we're supporting and developing communities, both from school service and donation and activities that we're doing to provide for school children all across the Philippines, to medical service that our teams are providing, and just resources that we're continually providing to the communities to do community engagements totally outside the company. It's just service, selfless acts of service that we're setting up for our teams to be able to volunteer and participate in. And it's just been such an amazing thing. And the better our company does, the bigger that platform of Rocket Station Cares becomes. And so for me, that's what I'm most excited about, what we're working on, because that's what it's really all about to me, is our ability to give back to the community and do some amazing things for people that is totally outside of ourselves and our personal goals. And so Rocket Station Cares is what I'm most excited about right now.
Very nice. Rocket Station Cares. It kind of reminds me of my vision for my business, which is to create a more caring world, which came from the cartoon, The Care Bears. I don't know if you remember that cartoon when you were little, if you used to watch it.
Yeah, that's great. Our mission statement as a company is enhance lives through better business, because that's, kind of similar to what you're talking about. It's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, awesome. Well, so our guests would have listened to this episode, and they are super pumped about what Rocket Station is doing. They're probably in the process themselves of trying to figure out how to navigate and maybe take on some of this outsourcing and create that culture that you were mentioning, and maybe even take on the hybrid approach for now until everything can be fully integrated. If our listeners wanted to connect with you even further, where can they find you online?
Yeah, our website is rocketstation.com, and there's lots of great information there. We've been fortunate to be able to get some endorsements and work with some of the sharks from Shark Tank and some other great companies. So there's lots of great information on the website. It's just rocketstation.com. But what most people, after when you hear about outsourcing or you're thinking about your business, it's something that you get and you understand. You just don't know exactly how that applies to you and your business and what steps you should be taking and how that works. And so I'd be happy for our team, our development team, to spend some time with anybody that's interested in just having the conversation. It doesn't matter if you hire our teams or not. There's no obligation, but on the website, there's a schedule time now button. And if anybody who's interested at all, just schedule some time with our team. Again, there's no obligation to sign up for our services or anything like that, but just to build a roadmap and kind of understand how this could affect you and apply to your business, just hit that schedule time now button, and our development team will spend 30, 45 minutes and answer any and all questions anybody could come up with. And if that was a great solution for your business, we'd love to work for you. But if it's not a good solution, no big deal at all. Happy to answer questions. So just go to rocketstation.com and there's great information there.
All right. Sounds good. So we'll have that as well for our listeners if they want to tap into that. So thank you so much, Robert. Now, Robert, before we wrap our interviews up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote or saying? It kind of helps to get you back on track or get you refocused. Do you have one of those?
I don't know if it'll be really clean off the top of my head, but I've learned in so many different ways from, the Tony Robbins stuff and the Darren Hardy. I spend a lot of time with both, but the real message that I tell myself consistently is I'm responsible for everything. So whatever I believe to be true comes. So whenever I'm happy, it's a choice. Whenever I'm sad, it's a choice. Whenever we're having success, it's because of the choices I've made. Whenever I'm having failures, it's because of the choices I've made. So whether things are good or bad, I just try to look in the mirror and say, it's your choices and your actions. You're responsible for everything. So just kind of a personal mantra that I have, that it's to be responsible and take ownership of all things that are in my life. So sorry for not having a very clean answer for that.
That's okay.
But I
that's
hope
okay.
that's what.
Of course. Thank you so much for sharing. So I am responsible. I take full responsibility and accountability for all decisions and all results that my life gets in any way, shape, or form. That's really, really good. Thank you, Robert. Okay, well, thanks, Robert, for joining us today on Navigating the Customer Experience. We really gained some great insights on the opportunities that exist in outsourcing for small or medium-sized business. What are some of the benefits and the reality that it does exist, that your customer experience can still be of stellar performance even though your teams may be working virtually. All you need is the right structures and systems in place to ensure that that is happening. So we really appreciate all the wonderful nuggets of insight that you shared with us today that hopefully will be beneficial to our listeners and the growth of their businesses.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time. And you just summarized what I said significantly better than I did. So thank you for being an awesome host and understanding my convoluted message. So I appreciate you very much. And to everybody listening, I really appreciate the time.
Thank you again. All right. So guys, just want to remind you, you can hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group at Navigating the Customer Experience Community, or follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.